And then finally, I got to go to Tokyo Disneyland, which was so different and unique, and to see the accessibility features that were available was just very different than the United States, because one of the reasons I had said about going to Tokyo Disneyland is I'm very familiar with Disney in the United States, and I thought, what better way to compare to places that I actually understand. So not only did I get to go to Tokyo Disneyland, I went with two students from Scuba. One, Karen, was fantastic. She's an international student from Hong Kong, and she speaks Japanese and English very well. So she was my translator and tour guide, and I said, in some ways, like my adopted daughter, because I've never had a girl. And so it was so nice just to spend the day with her. And then your colleague, Erica, who's also a professor at a partner university, and her student, Saku, got to go. So we had four of us who traveled to Disneyland for the day.
Two of them were
Yes.
individuals with visual impairments.
Yep. So Erica and Saku both travel with a cane. So not only did we get to experience Disneyland from the lens of a cultural perspective, we got to experience it from a perspective of someone with a disability. When we entered, we went right to Main Street, accessibility services, and the girls explored this beautiful tactile map of Tokyo Disneyland. It had an outline of all the different areas in Japanese Braille, and it also had here on the left-hand side audible feedback about the different areas. And then they also signed up for what's called a Disability Access Service, or a DAS pass. And this is something that you see oftentimes in America, but the system there is very different in that a lot of people use it. In Japan, there were very few people using this. And with the Disability Access Service, at every attraction, you actually went and talked with a cast member for about 5 minutes. And they would go through step by step what to expect on a given ride. So for Erica and Saku specifically, they had never been on many of the rides. So they told them how fast they went, what the restraints were. You have to be able to have a seatbelt on for 8 minutes. Are you okay with that? And they had to answer the questions, yes, each time. And then they would give you a time to return. So if we went at 10 o'clock, they might say, okay, your return time is 11:30. So then when we come back at 11:30, we'd meet with the same person again, and then they would put us to the front of the line, which was interesting in itself. So we didn't have to wait in the very long lines, which was very nice. But this here, just in English, describes the Disability Access Service. But alongside of the discussion that they had in Japanese, they also had an English version. So the tour guides were able to show me what they were saying each step of the way when we were talking about accessibility. Another thing that was so interesting, I loved, they have tactile models of of characters first and foremost. So if you have a child who's blind and has never been to Disney before and they don't understand Mickey Mouse, they can feel the different characters. They can interact with them. Not all guests can interact with these. It is specialized for people who are blind and visually impaired. And then on the bottom, there's buttons you can push, and then the characters talk to you and tell you a little bit about themselves in Japanese, which I thought was hysterical. My brother is a huge Donald Duck fan, so of course I recorded Donald Duck, and Donald Duck says the same thing in Japanese. I knew what he was saying in Japanese, even though I didn't know, because Donald Duck is Donald Duck. They also had tactile models of the rides. So when you think about accessibility and you think about going to a public place, specifically something like an amusement park, it's very unnerving to think about, like, how do I get into this roller coaster, or how do I get into this boat, or what does it look like, and what am I expected to do? In addition to the cast members explaining in detail each of these rides, they had in the front area 3D scale models of each of the ride vehicles, and the girls were able to experience them before we went into the rides. And you can go back as many times as you want. So if you have a child who's just very unsure, you can say, okay, we'll go on the boat ride first. And they do that, and then they go to the boat ride, go in, and then the next one might be the train ride. So they can go back and forth as many times as they want to explore those. But this was just so interesting to see. They actually have them in a case that's on display for visual people just to see them. But if you request ahead of time, you get to actually interact and touch them. And the other thing, I had to put this picture in for a little bit of fun. I was explaining one of the things. I guess it's just part of my job. I tend to often explain environments to people when I'm walking. So I walked with Erica most of the day, and the girls were together most of the day, students together, teachers together. And I was telling Erica about these hats. So many people were wearing these hats, and I said, she's like, tell me what they look like. And I said, they look like giant dumplings on people's heads. And she's like, I don't understand. So we went into the gift store, and I found this Tigger hat, and I said, Erica, this is what the hats are. And they put it on my head, and they pulled it down over me, the two of them, and then they pulled it up, and that's me laughing because, yes, I had this giant dumpling on my head. But it was nice to be able to even just take the verbal explanation of what I was trying to tell them and show them in firsthand. And also, this was so unique too. We didn't wait for any of the characters actually, but we were in one area of the park, and Miko from Pocahontas just kind of walked up to the girls, and they were like, "Oh, what is this?" And I was like, "This is one of the characters." And it was so neat because the character himself, the actor playing the character, was just so interactive with the girls, like, oh, feel how soft I am, and they were feeling his ears. And it was just a really nice way to just explore Disney and the different accessibility features across different settings.